And I want to have a different spirit. How many of you want to have a different spirit?
Yes.
It's a man in the Bible who it says had a different spirit than the people around him. The people around him were afraid. The people around him were discouraged. The people around him did not follow God with all their heart. Do you want to be like that? We live surrounded by people who are afraid, who are discouraged, and who do not follow God with their whole heart, don't have courage. And today we're going to look at Caleb from the book of Numbers and also from Joshua. And it says Caleb had a different spirit. You remember the story. God gave them a promise. They would have the promised land. And they went to spy it out. And 10 of the spies were afraid, and they brought back a report that said, we cannot do it. We can't do it. But Joshua and Caleb had a different spirit. They said, God is with us. We will do it. We will do it. And brothers and sisters, there is a battle for your heart and for my heart. Satan wants us to be full of fear and discouragement and not to take a wholehearted step forward, whatever that is in your life. Maybe to do a ministry, maybe to go somewhere and talk to somebody, maybe to start praying, whatever it is in your life, God is calling you. But the people around you don't do that. You need a different spirit. I need a different spirit. Listen to Joshua 14:8, the end of verse 8 and verse 9. It says this. This is Caleb speaking. He said, I, however, followed the Lord my God wholeheartedly. So on that day Moses swore to me, the land on which your feet have walked will be your inheritance and that of your children forever, because you have followed the Lord my God wholeheartedly. He decided God had given him a promise. And I know God has given some of you a promise. And if God gives a promise, it will come to pass. So he didn't focus on his circumstances. He focused on the promise of God. And if God said he was going to inherit that land, he followed God wholeheartedly. And God promised him and promises you and I that the land on which you walk will be your inheritance. In other words, the things that you do, the steps that you take will be your inheritance. So Satan wants to keep you from taking that first step. He wants to keep you from walking on the land God has for you. But Caleb had a different spirit, and he followed the God with all his heart. He was courageous, he was strong, and he believed in God. Amen?
Right.
He believed in God. And look what happens in verse 10 and 11. It says this, Now then, just as the Lord promised, he has kept me alive for 45 years since the time he said this to Moses, while Israel moved about in the wilderness. So here I am today, 85 years old. Caleb was 85 years old, and he served God the whole time with his whole heart. Everyone else died in the wilderness those 40 years, but not Caleb. Not Joshua, because they followed God wholeheartedly. Maybe when he was 83, somebody said, you know, Caleb, you're never going to see the promise. Forget about it. But he said, no, I am going to see the promise. Doesn't matter how old I am. And now he's 85 years old, and he is seeing the promise. And he says this, and this is why I want to have the spirit of Caleb. He says this, I am still as strong today as the day Moses sent me out. I'm just as vigorous to go out to battle now as I was then. Verse 12, now give me this hill country that the Lord promised me on that day. He said, I'm just as strong. And listen, we may not be physically as strong as we were when we were younger, but we can be spiritually stronger than we have ever been in our lives. And we can win the battle God has for us. And wherever you set your feet, that will be your inheritance from God. So everybody, my friends, my sisters who are here with me, let's have the spirit of Caleb. Forget about how old we are, how young we are, how big we are, how small we are. Let's follow God wholeheartedly. Whether we're 50, 40, 30, 60, or 85 years old, God will make us as strong today as we were when he made the promise to us. So today's Wednesday. We're going to have a time of worship now, and then we're going to pray. I encourage you to pray at home if you're watching this video. If you need a prayer, put a comment below or click the link for the prayer requests. If you need a guide to pray, we're praying for our community. And we want to go and march our feet in our community and claim this community for God. And I encourage you to do that wherever you are. So this is Pastor Willie. Have a good day of prayer, because today is Wednesday, and I'll see you again next Wednesday.